times. But Anthony Slater dropped an article here. He dropped some heat on The Athletic discussing Jordan Poole and some of the decisions here. Jordan Poole's future with the Warriors is murkier, but not unsalvageable. That's the headline here in The Athletic. So basically, it's murky with Jordan Poole, but it's not unsalvageable. And there's a lot of good nuggets in here. The first nugget we're kind of spitballing here. The general manager spot, which is now vacant. Kurt Lacob and Mike Dunleavy Jr. are currently running the show, even as the draft and free agency nears. There doesn't appear to be any urgency to officially announce a front office restructuring. Joe Lacob, the ultimate decider, wasn't in town this past week. Indications remain that Dunleavy and Lacob will step into elevated leadership roles, so the interim structure is the most likely permanent structure. How are we feeling about that? 888-957-9570 with Dunleavy and Kirk Lacob having more influential voices. Their voices were influential in giving Jordan Poole that hefty contract extension last October. Of course, Dunleavy was a scout before the 2019 draft. He saw Poole at Michigan and was a proponent of taking him 28th overall, adding some playmaking, skill, creation to a roster that needs it around Curry. But let's get to Jordan Poole, because there's a lot of things that have been said about Jordan Poole. Shasky, and I obviously call Willard's show, and, there's some narratives about Jordan Poole that I just do not like. I just do not like him. But let's talk about him for a second. The player last season that we saw coming off a championship. He was fourth in the NBA in total turnovers. That's not good.
Wow.
Fourth in the NBA in total
just overall turnovers.
Turnovers.
Okay, can we just stop for 1 second? Because I want you to read off this. Is that a byproduct of him playing and logging more games than some of these other guys?
Yes, but it's also.
I mean, it's bad. I'm not saying it's not bad.
There's a lot of carelessness with the basketball, bad shot selection, which should count as turnovers. He played 30 minutes a night. 30 minutes a night. It was fourth overall in the NBA in total turnovers.
Wow.
He averaged 3 a game. All right, now Steph averaged 3.5 or 3.2. 3.2.
Okay.
But he played nearly 35 minutes a game. That's 5 more minutes than Jordan Poole, and they basically averaged the same amount of turnovers.
And then, okay, keep going.
So
keep
fourth
going.
overall. We know about the 3-point percentage. 33.6.
Not good.
All right, from 3.
It's probably his lowest since his rookie year.
Right. He ate during the championship season, 36.5%.
Wow.
All right, that's a huge difference. And as Anthony Slater chronicled, he did spend a whole lot of time arguing with the officials.
Yeah.
You remember the Cleveland game when he got hit for the delay game, and Steve Kerr started clapping at him saying, "Lock the F in! Lock the F in!" And that's been part of the problem from last season, where there was a lot of concerns about his disengagement from the basketball team, which affected his defense.
Was it this year when Curry was mad at a shot he took and fired his mouthpiece and got ejected?
That was this past season. Yes,
that was this year. Wow.
Also what happened, and this clip has been making the rounds.
What's that?
Remember in Oklahoma City, they were playing the Thunder. And Jordan Poole to get past the ball to Draymond Green as he was rolling to the basket. Draymond thought he was open.
Oh, yeah.
Poole threw it somewhere. They turned it over. And Draymond Green just quit on the play. He quit on the play. Now, that's not right.
No.
But he quit on the play. And so,
But was it March?
That was late in the season.
Yeah, well, Draymond doesn't get up for March.
That's
that was a joke. Keep going. It was not a good one.
He said it, not us. He said it. The jokes are going to come out. So, what about Jordan Poole's future? How are Warrior fans feeling about Jordan Poole moving forward? Because he seems to be the guy, whenever I talk to somebody about what's going to happen with the Warriors, and then they give me their 2 cents, it's always, well, yeah, if they move Poole. And I'm thinking to myself, well, Steve Kerr called him one of the foundational 6 after last year, and he still believes that to this day, that he's part of the foundational 6. Now, who's the foundational 6? It's Poole, Clay, Steph, Draymond, Wiggins, and Looney. Now, there's a question that if the Denver Nuggets win the championship today, we're going to ask this question. Maybe somebody asked it today, but we could ask it right now. Is this year's Nuggets team better than last year's Warriors team that won the championship? And if so, if the Nuggets team is better, then how can you come back with the same foundational 6? That's a question for the future.
Is Jordan Poole a winning player?
I think so.
Why?
I think he helped you win the championship. I think he has all the principles to being a winning player, facilitating, playing well, playing team basketball. We've seen it. We've seen it last year.
Well, that was when his role was a little smaller. It was different last year. I'm talking about in the playoffs, which he helped you get to the playoffs. And I don't want to diminish that. Like, it's very important. I'm just asking, is him taking on a larger role, is that is that going to make them a more winning team? Is that going to create more winning plays on the basketball court? Is that unfair for me to suggest?
No. Well, because I would ask you this. Wouldn't you say he had a larger role last season? Not this past season, but 2 years ago when they won the championship? Would you say his role was a bit larger? Like, think about that season. They won the championship.
Yeah, it was during the regular season, but I think that it got changed in the playoffs. And as the playoffs went on, this is my feel of the situation, he was less reliable. Less reliable as it got deeper into each series, less reliable as we went round to round. Because I thought his first round was excellent, and then it kind of got worse.
It was up and down.
Yeah.
It was up and down.
Not that he wasn't good at times, but I don't think he finished on a high note.
So he started 51 games that year and averaged over 18. In the playoffs, his first ever postseason. I think this is important. We always talk about quarterbacks in their first postseason, whether or not they struggle or not. But in the NBA, when that spotlight is hot and you're playing in the playoffs for the first time, he averaged over 17 and a half now. Just looking at the game logs, I agree with you. His Denver series, the first 3 games, 30, 29, 27. He was dynamic, Mr. Money Time. We're playing a clip left and right.
And that was when he started.
That's when he started. Then he came off the bench in game number. Actually, he started that entire series. He started all 5 games of that series. Hit his starting game the rest of the playoffs. But people forget this. Game 1 against Memphis, when you stole game 1, he had 31, 9, and 8. We forgot that. He had 31, 9, and 8 to steal that game. All right, the first 3 games of the Memphis series, very good. The deeper the series got, he struggled.
Yeah, they got physical.
The Dallas series, first couple games, really good, right? 19, 23. And look at the efficiency of this Dallas series, the first 2 games. He was combined 15 and 22 from the floor. Combined 15 and 22, Shasky. That's pretty damn good, and he went 9 for 9 for the free throw line. So I'm going through all this to answer your question here. This Boston series, he got better as the series went along. Game 6, that run when they go on a 21-0 run, Jordan Poole had his fingerprints all over that run. So to answer your question about can he be a winning player, can he help your team win? I think the answer is yes.
But can his role grow? Can his minutes grow? Given who's in front of him in the pecking order right now and his status, like if we were looking at him, it feels, this is just my feel, he's your 4th or 5th option. And I think he views himself as, at minimum, a 2nd option.
When you look at this basketball team, I think he should maybe be the 3rd or have a bigger role on his team. Will you say 4th option or whatnot?
Because I would go,
that's 1.
Yes.
As far as a 2, that changes game by game.
I think Clay still views himself as a 2.
And that's the problem. He shouldn't be the 2.
Okay.
Clay shouldn't be.
Okay.
But if I'm looking at the team and I'm saying, okay, Steph's my number 1, my bona fide number 1. Well, if I'm coaching this team and I'm saying, I'm not going to appoint a number 2, how can I? On any given night, depending on the matchup, it could be a Clay. It could be a Wiggins. It could be Jordan Poole. Hell, Jordan Poole, maybe on any given day, that Nugget series, let's face it, those first couple games, he was the 2.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I agree. But I think where it gets difficult is there's dynamics, right? There's relationship dynamics amongst everyone out on the court. How many times did we see Jordan Poole or Steph Curry pass to Clay? Clay says, "I gotta take this. You guys have taken a bunch of shots. Now I gotta take this shot." Or conversely, Jordan Poole takes the ball off the rim, or someone passes it to him, and he's coming down, and it's the Jordan Poole show. Get out of my way. I gotta cook.
Well, but that championship season, wasn't he the number 1 option for a big stretch of that season?
Absolutely. But I think when you fast forward a year later, I think he grew frustrated with trying to put his imprint on the game because he's only playing short periods. So I guess where I'm going, something's got to give. It feels like to me. So
if the roster dynamics doesn't change, and they come back with the same core, the same foundational 6, and the same personnel, and they think, hey, this is good enough to win a championship, a 5th championship, how's Jordan Poole going to feel? And I don't think he'd be happy. And I think if you do bring Jordan Poole back and you bring Draymond Green back, it feels like to me Jordan Poole's going to have to start to really appease him and get him comfortable again within this organization. Because when you see...
Is that the best for Jordan Poole or is that the best for the team?
No, I can make the argument that it may be best for the team.
Okay.
But individually, would Clay accept the lesser role? Would Wiggins accept the lesser role? Would Draymond
in a
accept the
contract
lesser
year?
role?
I don't see Clay doing that.
Well, then you got a problem on your hands. then you have a problem, and then you may have to make a decision.
And I could be wrong. That could be unfair of me, but I'm going off of what I saw this year, and I got the sense of a guy who views himself a certain kind of way, and until I see otherwise, it's hard for me to see him accepting that. Now, that doesn't mean he can't. It's just I haven't seen it.
Well, Truth Live on Twitter is sending us some facts here, and we could fact check this, but he's saying that JP was number 1 in unforced turnovers last year in the NBA. Lowest three-point percentage in NBA history for as many attempts that he had, and then there's the defense. Don't let the points per game fool you. He just had one of the worst seasons in NBA history for someone playing 30 minutes a night. I'm not going to say worst season in NBA history, but the data does prove that, hey, he didn't have the greatest season, and his role fluctuated. So if he does come back, it almost feels like he has to start, and so then we ask the question, does Klay Thompson accept a lesser role? A lot of people don't think Klay Thompson could accept that role in a contract year when he's making $43 million this season. I almost think if he does come off the bench, it may help extend his career and make him more lucrative on the open market because another team says, look at Klay Thompson. He's sacrificing for the better good of the team. And most importantly, Fitz always says this. He says, who cares who starts? Obviously, it means something to these players. But if you are into the game with 30 minutes, 32 minutes, what are we really complaining about? When it's money time and we're all locked in on the fourth quarter and people are coming in to watch the game and say, oh, it's a close game, let me turn to it. Are you in the game or not? That to me is important. And so can you win with Jordan Poole being in that closing lineup? I think that's more. Who cares about who's starting? Will he be in that final 5 lineup, and can you play him? At times this year, he was unplayable in that final 5 lineup.
Yes, and it wasn't just him, but you had too many defensive liabilities on the court all at once. That's the first part. So that's its own question.
Will his defense be better if he knew he was starting? Would he try harder knowing that because some players do that. If you start him, you get extra energy out of him.
Can we acknowledge even Steph, Jordan Poole, like they're never going to be
great defenders.
It's just not. It's just not. And so we have to acknowledge that. And if you know that, and those guys are going to be important, then you need to build the roster around them to be able to offset those weaknesses, which is you got to add defensive players. But those defensive players are usually flawed, and they don't have balanced offense, which presents its own problems. So they've got issues. Like they have to make a decision here.
Like the optics don't look good. I get it. Also in the San Jose, $43 million player off the pitch. That's crazy and ridiculous. I'm not a player. I'm saying $43 million come off the pitch. I'm getting $43 million. That's on the organization. Now the optics may not look good, but we got to remember something with this contract. He was paid before the Achilles injury. Klay Thompson, that is. So this contract to me is like, you know what? The fact that you were able to salvage a contract, the fact that you were able to salvage something out of this player, it's a blessing in disguise. Like, I know Klay, we have all our thoughts about Klay, and most of them have been negative. But let's be real about something, him coming back and playing in all the games that he played, playing at the level at times that he played at. I'm actually surprised. I didn't think this guy was going to be nearly the player he is today. And obviously, he's not the player that he was. But coming off those injuries, I think we need to take a step back and say, how many players are really recovered from that injury?
Well, that's a fair point. But the other side of it is, all right, knowing that, how about not just automatically have the square button locked in as you're shooting? How about pass? There's an X button. You could pass a little as well. It doesn't have to be shoot. If you realize that, and I think that's part of acceptance. The last person to know is the mirror, right? Yeah. Everyone else knows before you do. So, yeah, the money is the money. But that is an element because the money sunken into him makes it difficult to build the team around him, right?
Yeah, but that's not just him.
It's not just him, but it is.
That's unfair.
In part him.
Sunk costs.
Well, no, it's not unfair. It's pro sports.
Sunk costs.
It's all fair.
Sunk costs. You know what I'm saying? Sunk costs. It is what it is. And if there's I always make the point, if there's anybody to have a sunken cost in, why not Klay Thompson? Like we talk about loyalty. Fans want ownership and owners and coaches to be loyal. Where was the loyalty at from the fans when it comes to Klay Thompson? Is that a fair question?
What do you mean?
What I mean is it feels like everybody just wants to kick Klay to the curb, saying, you know what, screw this guy, yada yada yada.
I don't think people want to kick him to the curb. I think people just want him to not be so shot hungry. That's what I think people want.
But I agree with that. But who the hell else was going to take shots? Again, when I go back to the Lakers
that's a good
series,
counterpoint.
That's who else is taking shots?
That's a good counterpoint.
You know what I'm saying? How many guys you got on the court?
But when you miss 9 in a row, maybe
pass the ball.
Yeah.
But then you look around you and you say, well, who else is going to shoot?
Well, in that moment, when you're missing that many, not you. That's all.
So you want Moody shooting? You get what I'm saying? Like, because there's context to everything.
Of course.
On why a guy is shooting. I look at everybody else and I was like, well, Clay's missed 9 in a row, but I'd still rather have him shoot than Draymond Green. Right now, he's missed 9 in a row, but boy, Jordan Poole's not doing much
that's
here.
That's
you know
large. That's like zooming out, large picture. I'm talking like situationally, like, dog, just take
Pass
a
the
dribble,
ball. I get it.
kick it back out, you know? And then obviously there were times, it's not just the shooting, it's like putting the ball on the floor and leaving your feet and then throwing it in no man's land, which is also a Jordan Poole problem. I mean, look, they're all on the same Clay, Poole, Draymond, you know, pick whoever you want. They all just didn't play well this year. And I would even say in the closeout series, Steph didn't play well either. He had moments where he played really, really well. He wasn't his best version of himself. I have a hard time thinking that everyone's going to be able to play along nicely and figure out their roles when there's money and ego and respect involved.
If that's the case,
and disrespect involved.
Well, if that's the case, it's time to break this thing up.
Well,
if that's the case, it's time to break it up. If these guys can't coexist and figure out roles and they can't play together and nobody's willing to sacrifice for the betterment of the team, then it's time to move some pieces. Let's just be real. If Poole can't play without starting, because obviously the splits tell you that he can't play without starting. His handles, the slips, the defense, everything goes awry for Jordan Poole when he has to come off the bench. And you know what? There's times where I look at Steve Kerr and I say, that's so unfair. Iguodala comes back, he's the first player off the bench to play?
Well, that I agree with.
That's bad optics. What does that say to the youngsters?
Yeah.
You know? Why is Jordan Poole not the first guy off the bench? Looney goes in and out of the lineup. So if you can't figure that out, then it's time to break things up. If we're having this, if Clay can't come off the bench and he can't accept the lesser role, and that's what Steve Kerr wants, then it's time to trade him.
Well, the part that the part that I think is the most frustrating for me is I thought that Moses Moody could be somewhere. He could be somewhere in the mix to where he could offset whatever you're losing defensively from Jordan Poole and be able to knock down a shot. I thought he'd be a little farther along as a viable 2-guard, three small forward option opposite those guys when Wiggins couldn't play or whatever, or when he's out of the game, and maybe Wiggins could, in fact, slide over to the 4. I thought Moody would be able to help them on the perimeter and space the floor better, and I just don't think he's far enough along as I expected him to be.
You asked a question because I want to lock in on Poole because we're getting too down the rabbit hole with Clay. For some reason, we turned.
Well, I think they're connected. Would you acknowledge they're connected?
They are a bit connected, but again, I just look at fans, and fans always scream loyalty, loyalty, loyalty. And one of the most loyal members of the Golden State Warriors in their history of basketball said, Klay Thompson. You know, we act like he didn't suffer 2 injuries. Like last year, did you expect Klay Thompson to play at that level in the playoffs?
No.
That's bonus. That's foul money.
Yeah, but that doesn't give you a runway for.
It does not. I'm not saying
forever.
It does.
Like everyone goes off of what you just did.
I'm not saying it does, but when you average over 22 a game, you have 2 of the best offensive months of your career, and his role changed. Let's be real. This entire basketball season, the most frustrating part about it is everybody's role changed except for Steph Curry. Everybody. So how can you win a championship when you got revolving doors and 25 different starting lineup combinations? How the hell can you build cohesion and continuity?
Well, and when you're old.
And you're older.
I mean, like that's the thing that we have to acknowledge. Like, you don't get better as you get older once you're at this point in your career. You start to come down the hill a little more. Some guys, like LeBron, are outliers and they can sustain it longer than others. I would put Curry in that category, but like most don't.